The story begins with a respected but emotionally exhausted university professor named Ted. Once upon a time, Ted was a celebrated writer whose novel became a massive success and earned him recognition in literary circles. Because of this success, he believed that teaching at a prestigious university would provide both financial stability and creative freedom. Teaching offered good benefits, a steady income, and the chance to remain close to literature. That is why he accepted the job. However, life did not turn out the way Ted expected. For nearly 10 years, he has failed to write another successful book. His creativity has dried up, publishers have lost interest in him, and writing has slowly become a source of frustration instead of joy. Now, teaching has become his entire identity. He teaches literature and creative writing, but deep inside, he feels stuck, defeated, and uninspired. In Ted's class, students are asked to write short stories and share them for review. During class discussions, students openly criticize each other's work. Ted listens, but he no longer has the energy to passionately guide them. He has grown tired of explaining the same ideas again and again. Instead of deeply engaging, he allows the class to continue mechanically, as if on autopilot. Among the students is a young woman named Angela, who quickly stands out. When Ted reads her story, he feels something he hasn't felt in years: genuine interest. Angela's writing is strange, bold, emotional, and deeply unsettling. She writes about pain, trauma, desire, and human vulnerability in a way that feels raw and real. Ted is impressed and tells her that her story suggests how life circumstances can deeply shape a person's choices and psychology. After class, Angela approaches Ted and politely asks if she can speak with him privately. She requests a meeting in his office the next day to discuss her writing. Ted agrees. Outside of college, Ted's personal life is equally heavy. He regularly visits his wife, Sherry, who works at a hospital. They have been married for many years and still care deeply for each other. However, their relationship is strained. Sherry is emotionally distant, and intimacy between them feels fragile. Ted tries to be affectionate, but Sherry often pulls away. It is clear that something is broken between them, even though love still exists. At the university, Ted is required to attend a meeting about sexual harassment policies. He finds the meeting dull and frustrating, barely paying attention. Ironically, this meeting foreshadows the disaster that is slowly approaching his life. That night, Ted dreams that a doctor has forgiven him for something unclear. When he tells Sherry about the dream, it feels symbolic, like Ted is seeking forgiveness for guilt he doesn't yet fully understand. Shortly afterward, Ted is involved in a minor car accident, adding to the sense that his life is spiraling out of control. The film also reveals that Sherry has unresolved emotional trauma from her past. She once made destructive choices in search of attention and validation, choices that still haunt her. This history explains her emotional distance and anger, especially toward Ted. The next day, Ted arrives late at college and finds Angela waiting outside his office, quietly reading a book. They begin talking about literature. Ted asks what kind of books she likes. Angela says she enjoys romantic novels but prefers serious, thought-provoking literature even more. Their conversation becomes personal. Ted mentions that he once wrote about his father's death on Facebook. Angela reveals that she also lost her father when she was very young. This shared experience of loss creates an emotional bond between them. Angela tells Ted that reading about his father helped her understand that it is possible to survive deep trauma. Angela admits that she often doubts her writing and feels insecure about her talent. Ted reassures her, explaining that every writer feels that way, especially in the beginning. He encourages her not to give up. Later, Ted receives pressure from his editor, who reminds him that he once promised a new book but has failed to deliver anything for months. Feeling overwhelmed, Ted begins reading Angela's manuscript more seriously. He is surprised by how intense and disturbing it is. The content is explicit, deeply psychological, and explores taboo themes involving power, desire, and manipulation. The book's title is unusual and provocative. Angela later tells Ted that she wants to donate her manuscript to the college library. Ted hesitates but allows it. However, worried that others might read it and misunderstand, he secretly takes the manuscript home, driven by curiosity and concern. As Ted reads Angela's work in private, he becomes increasingly fascinated not just by the writing, but by Angela herself. He begins to feel emotionally connected to her thoughts and inner world. This is the moment where professional boundaries quietly begin to blur. The film slowly builds tension, showing how admiration turns into emotional dependence, and how silence becomes dangerous. Ted believes he is only supporting a talented student, but in reality, he is stepping onto a path that will destroy everything he has left. As Ted continues reading Angela's writing, his fascination deepens. Her stories become more personal, more intimate, and disturbingly reflective of his own life. One particular story shocks him. It mirrors how he met his wife years ago. When Ted asks Angela where the idea came from, she casually says it happened to a friend's parents. Still, Ted feels uneasy. Their communication increases. Angela begins calling and messaging Ted more frequently, often under the excuse of discussing writing. One day, she tells him her computer is broken and asks if he can help. Ted initially refuses, saying he is busy, but later changes his mind. When Ted visits Angela's place, he quickly realizes he cannot fix the computer. Angela tells him she doesn't need technical help, she needs emotional support. She appears vulnerable, upset, and anxious. Ted tries to comfort her, but emotions escalate. In a moment of weakness, he kisses her. That moment turns into a brief intimate encounter. Almost immediately afterward, Ted panics. Reality crashes down on him. He realizes he has crossed an unforgivable professional boundary. Both agree that no one must ever find out. They know that if this secret is exposed, both their lives will be destroyed. At home, Ted becomes distant and restless. Sherry notices something is wrong. Ted struggles with guilt, fear, and confusion. Meanwhile, Angela's behavior begins to change. She becomes emotionally volatile and demanding. In class, Ted lashes out at other students, harshly criticizing their work. His frustration is no longer hidden. Angela later apologizes for her behavior and suggests that Ted send her manuscript to his editor. Ted feels conflicted. When he finally meets his editor, the editor suggests that a novel based on a teacher-student relationship would sell extremely well. Ted is disturbed by the suggestion and refuses. Soon after, everything collapses. Ted receives a call from university authorities. A complaint has been filed against him. Angela has secretly recorded their conversations, and those recordings are now being used as evidence. Ted is accused of sexual harassment. An inquiry committee is formed, and the evidence against him appears strong. Ted insists the relationship was consensual and gradual, not forced. However, he is warned that fighting the case will involve his family and destroy whatever reputation he has left. At home, Ted finally confesses everything to Sherry. She is devastated. She feels betrayed, humiliated, and heartbroken. Unable to cope, she leaves him. During the inquiry, Angela testifies emotionally. She claims Ted manipulated her, read her private writing without permission, promised to help publish her book, and pressured her into intimacy. Her testimony is powerful and convincing. The committee believes her. Ted loses his job, his career, and his reputation. Years of work vanish overnight. He is left isolated, blamed, and powerless. Later, it is revealed that Angela's manuscript is accepted by a publisher. Her book is going to be published. Ted slowly realizes the horrifying truth: Angela may have planned everything from the beginning, using real events as material for her story.